To the world, he was a refined monarch, intelligent, charismatic, and beloved by his people. To the court, he was feared. To his wife, the queen, he was a man who used affection as a weapon and desire as a noose. Their marriage had begun as a symbol of unity. She was the daughter of a noble house, elegant, pure, perfect for the throne. But soon after the wedding, it became clear that the king didn't choose her for love, he chose her for ownership. At first, the humiliation was subtle. He dictated what she wore, who she spoke to, how loudly she laughed. He monitored her body like a prized possession, touched by none, watched by all. But then, things changed. Whispers spread through the palace. Servants reported strange noises at night, laughter, footsteps, voices that didn't belong in the royal chamber. When one of the guards dared peek into the king's private quarters, what he saw haunted him. The queen, lying in bed, not beside her husband, but between two palace servants, while the king sat in a chair in the corner. Watching the guard was executed within the week. The court was told it was for treason. But the queen knew better. The first time she remembered the first night clearly. The king had summoned her without warning. When she arrived, two male servants were already in the room, half-dressed. Standing awkwardly, she looked at her husband in confusion. He poured himself wine and said calmly, "Tonight, you are not a queen, you are my gift to my kingdom." Her heart froze. She tried to protest, but he only raised a finger, not in anger, in warning. "You may refuse, of course, but if you do, I'll send your handmaid instead." She stared at him. A silent war in her chest. Her pride told her to scream. Her survival told her to obey. She lay down on the bed, expressionless, motionless, while two strangers, chosen by the king himself, touched the body that once belonged only to him. He watched it all, wine in hand, face unreadable. Not aroused, not jealous. Just studying. The ritual becomes routine. What began as a single incident soon became a ritual. Every few weeks, she would be summoned again, sometimes with male servants, sometimes female, sometimes both. The king never participated. He only watched. This wasn't desire, it was domination, a twisted punishment cloaked as royal indulgence. The queen realized the king wasn't humiliating her because she had failed him. He was humiliating her because she threatened him. She was too intelligent, too admired, too independent. And so, he broke her. In the only place she was truly vulnerable, the royal bed, in front of strangers. Without anger, without violence, just calculated degradation. The queen begins to change. At first, she wept in secret. She'd bathe for hours after each night, scrubbing her skin until it bled. But over time, something inside her shifted. She stopped resisting. She began watching him as he watched her. Her eyes stopped pleading for mercy and began piercing his soul. One night she smiled. Just once. Barely, but the king noticed. And for the first time, he looked afraid. The court doesn't speak. Everyone in the palace knew. The queen's chambermaids knew. The guards knew. Even the cooks whispered in fear. But no one dared speak, because the queen still smiled in public. Still walked beside the king with grace, still played the perfect wife. It was only in her eyes that the truth screamed. Eyes that had once shone with innocence now glowed with something darker. Understanding. She had begun to understand what the king truly feared. Not rebellion, not exposure, but the idea that she might start to enjoy the very thing meant to humiliate her. A dangerous transformation. The queen realized her body was no longer his weapon, it was hers. She began choosing how she reacted. Sometimes she would flirt with the servants brought in, sending the king into a quiet rage. Other times, she would lie still like a corpse, daring him to continue the charade. And every time she walked back into public, her head was held higher. The court could feel the change. Whispers shifted from pity to awe. Has she lost her mind? Or is she playing a game only she understands? No one knew for sure, but the king sensed it. Ending scene. One evening, she walked into the royal chamber alone. No summons. The king looked up from his wine. She said nothing, just stood there in silence. He asked, "Do you want something?" She replied, "Yes. Tonight, I choose who enters our bed." His hand trembled. The cup spilled, but she didn't wait for an answer. She turned and walked away, her voice echoing behind her. Or would you rather watch me love myself? Power doesn't always arrive with swords or coronations. Sometimes. It emerges from the ashes of shame, slow, silent, and unstoppable. The queen had been broken publicly, repeatedly, but something strange began to happen. She no longer felt humiliated. In control, because once you've survived the worst thing a man can do to you, and you're still standing, you become untouchable. The turning point it began with a simple act. One evening, she dismissed the servants before they reached the chamber. They looked confused, even fearful. She told them, "Tonight, no one enters, unless I open the door myself." The king heard about it within the hour. He stormed into her chambers, furious, but she didn't flinch. He shouted, "You're forgetting your place." She calmly replied, "No, I'm remembering my worth." It was the first time he saw her not as a victim, but as a woman who had survived him. A new ritual over the next weeks. She began reshaping the ritual. The servants he sent. She interviewed. If they were unworthy, she dismissed them. If they were kind, she listened to their stories. And if they trembled before her, she comforted them. She had become a goddess of humiliation, taking the ritual that once destroyed her and turning it into an act of mercy, control, and even connection. And then she did the unthinkable. She invited one of the servants back, not for the king's pleasure, but for her own. That night, she sent her guards to block the king from entering. She lit her own candles. She chose her own partner, and she closed the curtains. The king raged in the hallway. He screamed her name. He threatened war, but inside the chamber, she made no sound, only silence. Empowered. The king's collapse. The king's control began to slip. He grew paranoid. He sent spies. He began interrogating servants, demanding to know what the queen was doing behind closed doors. But no one betrayed her, because even the servants, once used as pawns in his cruel games, had grown loyal to her. She had shown them kindness, and in return, they gave her silence. The nobles noticed the shift. Where once they bowed to the king, now they greeted the queen first. When matters of state arose, they whispered, "Ask her. She sees more than the rest of us." She had become a living legend, not because she ruled by decree, but because she ruled by endurance. The rumors of poison and then came the rumors. One of the king's close advisors collapsed during dinner. Another was found dead in his bath, veins darkened, lips blue. No one dared accuse her, but the queen's maids whispered poems in the hallways. What the king thought was love, she stirred into wine, and what he thought was loyalty, she buried in time. The court grew colder. The king shrank into shadows. And the queen blossomed. A final conversation one winter evening. The king summoned her privately. No servants, no guards. He looked older, weaker, haunted. He asked, "Why didn't you just leave me?" She smiled softly, "Because then you'd think, you won, and I'm not here to run. I'm here to remind you what it means to fear silence." He stood there, trembling, not because she threatened him, but because she no longer needed to. He had turned her into a tool, and she had turned herself into a weapon, her legacy. History would never write her name, not in official scrolls, not in royal epics. But servants passed her story down like sacred scripture. They said she rewrote the rules of pain. They said she reclaimed her body from the hands of kings. They said she taught them that even in degradation, a woman can rise, not in fire, but in quiet, vengeful grace. She never remarried. She never bore heirs.